I finally said, there's a man on your back porch with his genitals in his hand, and he's trying to have sex with your daughter.
You cannot use the tablet as a babysitter anymore.
No. The things we found about Roblox are shocking.
Why is this not a bigger story? So, obviously, legendary Chris Hansen, and you already were a great investigative reporter. You know, you covered Oklahoma City bombings, the Unabomber investigation, aviation. Like, you have done. Your resume is quite impressive.
Blessed to do a lot of stuff. Yeah,
and then, but you're most known for
absolutely
the Catch a Predator. But it's funny how it changed for me personally, because originally you guys started in what, 2002 or something, like 2003?
2004.
2004.
So it was 22 years this month that we did the very first
that you started doing these investigations. Yeah. So when I first watched them, I watched them as a single guy.
Yeah.
With no kids.
Sure. And it was dark humor and dark entertainment.
It was dark humor. Yeah. And it was like, I remember the guy who was like, I just came to get something to eat.
Yeah.
And literally you caught him. This was even before the police were involved. Yeah. You called him out. He was naked when you walked in the room. Yeah.
Second investigation outside of Washington, D.C.
And you expose him.
He exposed himself.
He exposed himself, and then you exposed him. Then he leaves and literally calls your people to say, hey, it's a setup. Meet me at McDonald's the next day. Like,
well, he got caught again.
And you caught him again.
Right. Yeah. So he goes at our decoys. In those days, it was Perverted Justice, an online watchdog group, had another decoy in another chat room, and he found them, and they came downstairs. They said, you won't believe this. Remember the guy yesterday I walked in naked? I said, hard to forget.
Yeah.
He said, he's back in the chat room, and he wants to meet. I said, well, he's not going to come back to this house, obviously. And then I'm thinking, it's the last day of the sting. What if we miss somebody who comes over while I'm out doing this? I said, it's worth the risk. Tell him we'll meet him at McDonald's, a couple miles from here. So they set up the meeting. We go. I've got 2 TV crews with me. We see him pull up in his red pickup truck. He goes into the McDonald's to meet the kid. We walk up on him, and he comes out, and I say to him the only thing I could think of, which was, I've been in this business 24 years, and I've very rarely been at a loss for words, but I don't know what to ask you first.
Yeah, I could feel the almost disgust and anger in your voice. But that's a natural.
You see this guy walk in naked, right? And then these guys always make themselves the victim.
Yeah,
right? So he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Now, he doesn't know whether I'm the mad dad, the cop, or whatever. And I give him the towel that was on the top of the refrigerator the producers had set aside for me. And, I've been prepared for a lot of things in my career, but never a naked guy walking into a sting house.
Yeah, there to meet a child.
Who so clearly was willing to exploit a young boy.
And I remember at that time I was in WWE Developmental, and we watched it without fail, but we were laughing at it, at the guys, and we even did for promo class, we did spoofs like to Catch a Bad Wrestler and all these things, and then I had children.
That changes it, doesn't it?
And I saw the episodes again, and I didn't find anything funny about any of it.
No.
And it was disgusting. And I think maybe that was, I don't want to say, it became a tool that you look back now, you were way ahead of your time telling the people that this stuff is happening everywhere.
Right.
And you were the only person, and I look back and like, man, this should have been a wake-up call to everyone.
Well, we didn't know what was going to happen, Tyrus. I mean, we went out to do the very first sting, as you mentioned, 22 years ago this very month, and we did it out in Bethpage, Long Island, 40 minutes from here, right? We rented a house. Perverted Justice, the online watchdog group, came out. And I thought, well, look, if we can wire this house and have them be the decoy and these guys would show up, we could confront them, and it could be pretty compelling. But I didn't know it was actually going to work. So I'm driving out to the house, and I'm thinking to myself, what if I've just blown tens of thousands of dollars of the network's money? What if nobody shows up? And with that, my producer calls and says, where the hell are you? we've got 2 guys scheduled to show up in 45 minutes. So we get there, and immediately we're off to the races. First guy shows up, and I've done a lot of edgy interviews and crazy stories all around the world, Africa, India, Asia, Thailand, and, dark spots. And I'm, my heart is in my throat.
Yeah.
And we get through the first one, and they just leave. Law enforcement wasn't involved. We had a security guy. Ronnie Knight was there, my security guy, to make sure everybody was okay. But they left.
And went right back to their life.
Went right back to their life. So the second guy comes in, same thing. Third guy comes in, and at this point, the transcripts of the chats, which are being printed out right there in the Sting House, are a mess. So I come out with the wrong transcripts. And I say to the guy, it says here you wanted to do blank, blank, blank to this girl. No, it's not me. Hang on. Come back. Second set of transcripts. A 13-year-old named Beth. No, it's not me. A 14-year-old named Suzanne. Yeah, that's me. Okay, great. We can get and finally he just says, okay, that's me. And we do the interview. So at the end of those 2.5 days, 17 men surfaced in that first investigation, including a New York City firefighter who was the only one who was criminally prosecuted from the sting. The FBI picked up that case. And ultimately there was a guilty plea. And we confronted him outside the firehouse eventually. But, I thought, holy hell, if we can do this in 2.5 days.
Right.
And remember, in 2004, we were only conducting these stings with chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo and maybe MySpace. Well, think about what has happened in the last 22 years.
It's as a parent, it's shocking.
I mean, we just finished an investigation and documentary on Roblox, the online gaming.
Yes, and I used to play with that with my kids, and I couldn't delete it fast enough.
So the first hour of the documentary dropped a few weeks ago on my streaming crime network, True Blue. The second hour will drop in a few days. And it was shocking to me that you have this kids game with characters that appear to be so innocent, like Lego characters.
Right.
But I guess it just goes to show that predators will go wherever the children are. So people ask, is the problem worse today than it was 22 years ago? The answer is yes. It's way worse because there are so many different platforms.
There's more access
upon which adults can approach children. But if you had asked me 22 years ago how long we'd be doing this, I figured, well, maybe 2, 3, 4 times maybe. And who's going to show up? They'd be so embarrassed. And here we are, hundreds and hundreds of guys later, 22 years later, and we are out every month doing an investigation. We work exclusively with law enforcement agencies now because it makes for a much cleaner prosecution.
Yes.
The chain of custody of evidence is much cleaner. So the decoys are law enforcement, and we're embedded with them, and we tell the story. And we work a little differently with each different law enforcement agency, but it's still very compelling. And we were just out 2 weeks ago in Louisiana with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. Great crew. They all are. And, 7 guys show up in 3 days, including 2 men who showed up at the same time who we think were involved in a human trafficking operation. They're illegal immigrants from Honduras. And one hid in the car while the other came in. And as I'm confronting him inside the Sting House, the other guy beats feet. Now, we think the guy inside texted him. He was pretending to use a translation app.
But he was telling his buddy
the guy,
to take us up.
Get out of here. So he goes out. Obviously, there's surveillance all over the place. They give chase. He T-bones a undercover sheriff's truck. They take him into custody. But we think now, and we're still sorting through it, and it'll be on True Blue very soon, that they were going to try to kidnap this girl.
Because that's one of the things that I was curious about when the borders were just wide open.
Yes.
Have you seen
absolutely, we have seen it.
Shift in
we
a
have
lot
seen
of illegals because they come from countries where they
come from Honduras, Ecuador, throughout South America. We've seen in almost every sting somebody gets arrested who should not be in this country. And so, what percentage of them? A small percentage, given the overall. But, we've had quite a few and shocking examples. We had, again, in an earlier sting in Louisiana, we had a guy show up, two. One was a Chinese national who was here for 8 years studying opera at Louisiana State University. Another who was already on HSI, Homeland Security's radar, during a human trafficking investigation, ferrying people back and forth from the airport. Wow. They already had him as a suspect, and he shows up in our sting to exploit a teenager.
You know what concerns me? Because one, I don't understand why you have not been given some form of major award.
Well,
and again, you're not doing it for that, but I'm saying
my award is the fact that we create awareness and a dialogue that helps parents protect their children, that educates people on the dangers of a gaming platform like Roblox. I mean, the things we found about Roblox are shocking.
Why is this not a bigger story?
Well, I think it is a bigger story. I mean, we do it on True Blue. I come on shows like this and talk about it.
Sure, everyone understands where they can find it.
We'll talk about all that.
Streaming network.
Right. Watch TrueBlue.com. Yeah, and Takedown is a series. But I mean, Fox is very gracious about getting the message out. I mean, I go on Jesse Waters' primetime show.
I understand that, but I'm saying in general,
we get a lot of recognition.
We see it from very conservative stuff. But I'm saying, like, shouldn't this be something that you should have a lot of competition? Shouldn't there be different?
Well, there are vigilante predators who go out and they make internet content about this. But that's a different deal.
Beating the guy up in Walmart isn't helping anyone.
Every time I talk about this, I get people protesting online. You're trying to shut us down. I'm not trying to shut anybody down. But what I can tell you is that we have a 99+%
you get them where they need to go, and
successful prosecution rate.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Now I'm not going to put hands on these guys.
No, because then assault is
that's not what we do.
You're not helping the problem.
We let the law enforcement take care of what law enforcement is supposed to take care of. But again, we do get a lot of attention on this, and
I know that, but I think it's like we haven't seen a cultural shift on any platform. I know there was just the verdict came out
the meta verdict, which I think is significant. But what I've learned, Tyrus, is that so much of this is driven by obviously money. These are private corporations, and in our capitalist society, everybody needs to create commerce and do business. True Blue, my streaming crime network, that's a business. We make money. This podcast makes money. This show, Fox News, makes money. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But when you have the responsibility for so many vulnerable children, if you run an amusement park, if kids are flying off a ride at an amusement park left and right, they have a responsibility to make that ride safer so kids aren't flying off the ride. Roblox has a similar responsibility here. And I am shocked after multiple calls and background briefings with this company that they did not do an on-camera interview. And what it tells me is that they're either afraid of what I'm going to ask them,
right,
or they're arrogant, and because they created this world, this online society, they know what's best for it, and they don't have to be held accountable. Now, they've enacted safety precautions, facial recognition, age verification to try to prevent adults from contacting children. But we've seen these circumvented over and over again. And so I've come to the conclusion that law enforcement is doing its best. And in the documentary that people can see also on True Blue, you'll see a detective in Marion County, Florida, who probably is one of the most knowledgeable detectives in law enforcement today when it comes to Roblox. And it's complicated. But you see these kids get so exploited, so victimized. And their only recourse, I mean, yes, they can bring a criminal case, but the only thing that's going to bring attention to this in many cases are civil lawsuits.
Right.
And we've seen, for instance, one law firm which we've dealt with in Chicago who represents a guy named Schlepp, who's an online character who's been an advocate for safety on Roblox, who he himself was victimized by a predator at a young age. When we started investigating and interviewing for this last summer, this one law firm in Chicago had 500 cases. Since then, it's grown to like 3,000. And that's not the only law firm representing plaintiffs against Roblox. And so why won't Roblox allow law enforcement to come on the platform and conduct investigations? They won't. Why, when they ask parents to be part of the Parents Champion program and have input into these safety and security measures, why do they make parents sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and an agreement that they will never bring a legal claim against Roblox or any of its employees? Why is that necessary if we're going to have an open discussion about security?
And that's one of the things that with the internet, the fake accounts. Especially the fake, and it happens a lot to my fan base, right?
Sure.
Where the fake Tyrus on Facebook is
happens
always,
to me daily. Yeah. We're always looking for the fake Chris Hansen accounts.
My wife took my money away. I'm trying to get divorced. Can you send me $250? And you send it to all these diehard fans. They think it's you.
Yeah.
But
trust me, I am well aware.
But I'm also well aware that the companies are aware of these fake accounts because when they make it so, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even have a Facebook account at all. And my wife handles all my social media, and she's reaching out.
My wife handles much of mine.
And she's reaching out going, he doesn't have an account.
Yeah.
Why are there all these videos, AI videos being made of him? Or, hey, it's Tyrus, this is my new thing. And yet they're getting them shut down. She got an answer one time back where they said, well, he has more followers for you, so we believe that's the real Tyrus because you don't have an account. And she was like, it's my husband.
I've seen the show. You've got people... We've done videos on TikTok, for instance. Now, I've got to be the only 66-year-old in America who's got 1 million TikTok followers.
Right. Yeah, I don't even have TikTok.
But even I get limited sometimes because of the language used, predator, exploitation, things like that. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not using it to make money. I'm using it to bring attention to my content on my network and to get people's attention so they protect their kids, right? But I can tell you there are people on TikTok who are exploiting the fact that, for instance, they're married to somebody who's in prison for possessing child pornography, right? A bad guy.
Yes.
And the wife is out there saying, oh, he's been victimized, he's wronged, and all her content gets monetized. And she's making money hand over fist, exploiting the fact that she's married to a guy who exploited children. Now, you make sense out of that.
I'm not. I can't.
That account shouldn't be on TikTok.
Yeah, and that's like I was when they were talking about TikTok going away. I was all for it. I was all for it. And again, I feel like if you have an ID, you can get a social media account. If you don't, it needs to be. They always like blue check, blue check. We need a red check, not verified. Right. Not safe. Unknown. This 13-year-old girl. Because there's a 45-year-old man pretending to be a 13-year-old girl to lure some young boy on the thing to come meet him somewhere. I refuse to believe that they're not aware. And I think a lot of it is, it's just so much money.
Well, it's engagement, right?
Yes.
Why wouldn't Roblox crack down even more than it has? It limits engagement, and engagement runs
the sick guy on there that will have 13, 14 accounts.
Right.
Now you got 3,000 pedophiles with 15 accounts with pretending to be different ages of children. That's very lucrative, opposed to just if it was just for kids.
We have a portion of the documentary devoted to this woman, the mother of 2 or 3 kids. The daughter caught the dad chatting with a child on Roblox. She alerts the mother, who confronts him, finds the chats, and it turns out this man in Harlingen, Texas, is going on Roblox and is sexting, grooming, and taking advantage of, exploiting a vulnerable 15-year-old girl in California. Because this woman was so adamant about exposing her husband. Now, she did this at great risk to herself.
Yeah.
Financially.
Physically.
Family-wise.
Because that's not something he's going to walk away from.
No, she calls the police.
He's a sex offender the rest of his life.
She calls the police and then reaches out on TikTok to me. And this is why I have all these social media accounts, because many times people don't know how to reach out to me or my producer or my network or my agent, but they can find me on TikTok or on Instagram or on X. So I keep a lively presence there for this reason. So this woman, Alyssa, reaches out on TikTok. I think my wife saw it first and says, you should contact this woman. I do. tells me the whole story. She's got the chats, the whole thing. She does the detective work to find out who this girl's mother is in California. No easy task. Uses social media, figures it out, calls the mom, says, this is what happened. The mom's shocked. They get the statement. They go to the police. I interview her. I go to the place of work where the husband is. All this is in the documentary. And I confront him in the parking lot of the retail store where he works. And he's, I'm having a tough time and I'm going through divorce. And then I pull out the text chat and I confront him with it. I can't, that was nothing. Well, they finally prosecute him. They arrested him. Also, we have that on camera. So it's this organic connection you have with people who have important stories to tell. I mean, it's a two-edged sword. Obviously, the social media platforms create an opportunity for adults to exploit children. That's horrible. But it also creates opportunity for those people to come to me to show what's going on and to create dialogue and awareness and get some sense of justice for these people.
I think, for me, the frustrating thing is that there could be more done from the parent side of things.
Well, I think that's critical.
I think you can't talk about one without the other.
Absolutely.
You have to parent. You cannot use the tablet as a babysitter anymore.
No.
It's not Generation X. It's not us worrying about the guy with the van on the corner with wine coolers and Snicker bars.
Well, you still have to worry about that.
It's there, but
it takes a different form
now. He can literally sit from the comfort of his home.
And be right there.
And be right there in your home.
Yeah.
While you're busy.
And it's my guys are 34 and about to be 32 now. So the worst thing we had to deal with was like World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Right. I can't go to bed now. The guys depend on me. So you tell your guys you're going to bed because you're a sophomore in high school. Get to bed.
Yeah.
Or whatever age they were at the time. Now it's different and it's 24/7 and you don't have to be on a desktop. You can be on your phone. And I tell people all the time, especially parents, and I do a fair amount of speaking on this. It's like, look, law enforcement cares about this. They are working day and night, 24/7 at every level of law enforcement. I'm doing the best I can. Other people are doing the best they can to expose this. But at the end of the day, you're the only one who can put the fence up around your yard. You're the only one who can peer over the shoulder or who can get some software, a bark phone system where you can be alerted if your child is giving away personal information. But the most important thing, and we've got a documentary coming out next on sextortion and how these poor kids are being taken advantage of and sometimes driven to suicide at very young ages. These kids don't see a way out of it sometimes. They make a commitment to go do something they know is inappropriate intellectually, but they're going to go through with it because they said they would. They put something out there and then worry about that damaging their image on social media, their identity on social media, and it's everything to a lot of these kids today.
Right.
And so we see these horrible things happen to these kids because they're afraid to go to their parents, and you have to create an environment where if something happens to your kid online, whether it's their fault or not, you have to create the environment where they can come to you as a parent and say, Dad, Mom,
I messed up.
I screwed up.
This is what I did. I sent a picture to this person. What do I do?
I've seen too many kids get caught up in the moment and commit suicide. Kids who should be in college in their third year playing sports and dating and doing all the important stuff you do in college, who are dead now because they couldn't get past that 15 minutes of shame.
Right.
Worried that grandma's going to see my junk because I sent it to somebody I thought was a girl, but it was really a Nigerian con artist.
Who's blackmailing me now.
He's blackmailing me now. And nobody cares at the end of the day. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has an entire program to help you scrub the internet. And by the way, nobody cares. You care because you're the kid who's in the center of the storm.
Right.
The world's not going to judge you on this.
And that message
and the parent
has to come from
it starts at home.
dad.
I have sat across too many parents whose kids killed themselves in a moment of shame. And I'm convinced beyond any doubt that this has to be the key to it. And I will hold these social media platform companies responsible and these gaming companies responsible, and I'll be on their tails the rest of my career. But at the end of the day, the parents got to really be on top of this.
And some of that is you got to look in the mirror.
Absolutely. And if you're on your phone the whole time, what example is that setting for the kids?
Exactly. Shouldn't be phones at the dinner table.
No.
Like you got to turn it off.
Yeah. And I do it in my own life because, I got to get away from it from time to time. And I don't care whether it's going to lunch with my mom or skiing down a hill with my sons or whatever it is.
Yeah, because
you got to get away from it.
You have seen things that would turn stomachs that people would never be the same again. How do you balance a normal life?
I'm blessed, right? So I have a very normal life, right? We're very comfortable. We get to do a lot of neat stuff. And I'm just blessed with the ability to compartmentalize work and home life. And so, my identity is closely tied to work, just like yours is.
Yeah.
That's what we do. I'm a brand, you're a brand. You have to accept that. You have to accept that there's a certain amount of ego in what we do, and that ego protects us, right? And allows us to do what we do.
Right.
And look, a lot of the allure for people who consume my content is the dark sense of humor to it. And I lean into that. And as much as I think it's appropriate to be comical and have some humor with it, I do it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't mean any disrespect by it.
Right.
But because I'm in the streaming world now, I can get away with that. And I have a longer leash to do it, and I exploit that in my own way.
With being in streaming, you're in control of your content.
We own the content. We own the distribution of the content. I can decide what shows I want.
We don't want to do that story.
Well, yeah, we used to go through, when we did the first investigation, we did it in March of, as I said, 2004. It did not air till September of that year. And they were nervous. They knew what they had was important. It was compelling. It was something that had never been seen on television. But they were afraid a little bit. And finally, we were in an editorial meeting, and I lost my cool. And an executive said, "How are we going to tease this?" And I finally said, "There's a man on your back porch with his genitals in his hand, and he's trying to have sex with your daughter. Tonight, we're going to show you how to stop that from happening." Right. Hanson's lost his mind, finally. It's gotten to him. But they understood it.
It's a pretty clear message.
A few weeks later, the first episode aired.
Are you more comfortable now with being on streaming, where you can, like I said, there's nothing you can't tackle? Because I'm imagine there has to be a lot of pushback especially with the way the climate is now, where you're correlating the mistakes with the border have only added more fuel to this fire.
Well, I'm very fortunate because I have a lot of places where my content.
Because this should be a non-biased, nonpartisan issue.
I'm pro-justice. Right?
Yeah, it should be like, get the bad guy out. Right. It shouldn't be, well, hey, it's unfair that you're blaming a few bad immigrants for the whole.
Right, and I get pushback on that on social media. Look, it's somebody said once, "Oh, Twitter's not going to, or X is not going to like that." Well, a lot of people on those social media platforms don't like anything.
If you don't like it, you should probably
but you can't worry about trolls and all that stuff. But I'm lucky because I have multiple platforms. Yeah, I've got 2 podcasts. I have one podcast, Predators I've Caught, that is dedicated to the previous cases, and I update people on what's happened to these guys. The other one, Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, talks about all kinds of things, from Epstein to any other investigative reporting that I care to do, anything I want to dig into. We've got, the presence here in this building. We get to appear on Fox. We have our own network. So, really from that standpoint, I don't feel, that I'm held back at all. I mean, if somebody wants to see what we're doing, it's pretty easy to see it.
Yeah. And I think that's important that people know that it's out there. Now, you're connected to this, but I don't think you've ever lost the respect as a journalist, which is a term you use loosely now.
Yeah.
Because telling the story without your own personal influence, I think, is one of the things that you have always been phenomenal at in
I've
a
tried.
situation that's not easy.
Yeah.
Because you're a husband, you're a father, you know what the intent, if you weren't there, what their intent, what was going to happen, and you've always maintained your professionalism. Which one, and you've done so many, which one was the one that was, I can remember the one with the man who brought his kid. I remember.
Oh, yeah, that was shocking.
That was tough.
That was in
you know what?
Fort Myers, Florida.
That also was changed my attitude from this ain't funny anymore.
It changed mine. I mean, we were in Fort Myers, Florida. It was the last day of the sting. He was the last guy to show up. And as you can imagine, the guys who work with me have been around the world with me.
You've seen it all.
Some of the darkest parts of the world on all kinds of crazy, wild investigations. And he pulls up in his SUV, and he goes to the back door on the driver's side. We think he's going to get pizza or, wine coolers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he gets his son, 4 or 5-year-old son, by the hand and leads him up the driveway. And people are going crazy inside. It's like, oh, my God, do you see this? What's he doing? And I don't think he was going to involve the child in a sex act. But I think he was going to set him aside to watch a video while he got it on with this teenage boy. And so he walks in, and I said to him, I know why you're here, and you know why you're here. And I'm not going to put you through it in front of your child. But you need to get out of here now. And, of course, the police were waiting, and a female officer gently picked up the child, and they arrested him. His wife was working that day at a retail store, a high-end retail store, and his only job was to spend the day with his child, and this is what he decided to do.
Yeah.
The court and the Department of Child and Family Services in Florida made him leave the house because of the crime.
Yeah, he's
the wife took him back in.
What?
And let the child live with a relative, and they had another child together. And people were so offended in Florida government that I would get regular reports from folks telling me what's going on with this guy. But it's just, and that's part of the story, Tyrus, is the collateral damage. This isn't just one guy.
Right. No, he's a representative.
Who's trying to harm a child. There's a whole...
It's almost like a society, litany. This underground society.
Well, you look at the Epstein case.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was bad. We knew it was horrible. We did a documentary on Peter Nygaard. It was another billionaire who was involved in all this stuff. But I mean, you could spend the rest of a career, unfortunately, some journalists are doing that. I'm trying to do my part, going through the Epstein files. And the extent to which these guys were involved and had power and, thought this was okay and running human trafficking rings and, all kinds of other things. It's stunning.
I guess, and here's the other thing. Have you, with all the predators that you have gotten off the streets, has there been any redemption? Has there been anyone where, like, they've gotten treatment or they've...
Yeah, I hear stories, and we've done some episodes of the podcast where guys have figured it out, knew that they were obviously wrong, committed a crime, and went on to lead crime-free lives. But I've also realized that a lot of these guys are never going to change.
Right.
And I never used to be a big death penalty advocate. And I get into this conversation with Sheriff Grady Judd down in Polk County, and I've known him for 40-some years when he was a Lieutenant Grady Judd, and I was a reporter in Tampa, Florida in the 80s. And he's adamant that the death penalty is necessary here. And I've come to the conclusion that it is in severe cases, and not just to take the life of somebody who's going to exploit another child potentially, but it gives prosecutors a very important tool. And a lot of these cases end up in plea bargains, right? The guy will plead guilty, take 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. If there's child pornography involved, it could be much longer. It gives prosecutors a tool and leverage in a plea bargain situation. We'll take the death penalty off, but you're going to wait for 30 years.
Yeah. And I think that in itself...
And these guys are learning that they'll lose if they go to trial. There was a guy who we caught in one of the Polk County, Florida investigations. Bad guy, child porn, and they offered him a 10-year deal. He told him to go pound sand. Well, he got convicted at trial. What did the judge do? Life. Mandatory life.
Awesome.
So he's going away forever. Now we don't get this in every jurisdiction. We have, stings that happen in some urban environments where prosecutors are overwhelmed and they're doing plea bargains left and right. And some guys are getting caught and spending, a matter of days in jail.
Yeah, and that's...
But at least they've been exposed on my network and in other places. And at least they have to register as a sex offender. They're on probation and they're on the radar. Right. So I consider that a win. Not the biggest win, but it's a win.
Do you notice, is there, again, since we have dealing with all that we hear, the blue cities, red cities, all that shit, is there do you notice a significant difference between, let's say, a sanctuary city where a person's arrested and we don't really have red cities.
Right.
But yeah.
No, but I think they're, the counties, prosecutors.
Counties, yes.
Right. So I think that it's safe to say that in Florida, they're pretty tough. In Louisiana, they will now generally not accept a plea bargain for less than 5 years in prison.
Okay.
And I think that's a pretty good benchmark.
Yeah.
In Michigan, depending on which county, and we work with a few, it's uneven. And that's just the reality. But they are having to register sex offenders. They are having to report. And God forbid they do it again, then they go.
It just, you would think, again, when it comes to our children, but again, it's very frustrating because I feel like a lot of this, bad people are going to find a way to be bad.
Of course. And it's the predators committing the crimes. And that was the frustrating thing in the Roblox investigation. A smart company who is facing scrutiny in the media, like Boeing, for instance, right? Boeing, years ago, we did a big story on the 737s. They're having problems.
Right, the doors are falling off.
They didn't hide.
No.
They invited me to come to their factory. They showed me how the big airplanes were made, how many miles of cables went into it. And then the appropriate executive sat down and said, look, we don't think the problem you're pointing to caused a fatal crash, but we understand it's a concern. And so here's what we've done to address that concern. And thank you for pointing other things out to us that we may or may not have known about. And then people can make their decision by viewing the work of journalism and decide for themselves. But they're smart to do that. I mean, we've caught people in all kinds of situations. And if you're going to be a good corporate citizen, you sit down and explain it. And if I were Roblox, I'd invite a reporter into their world.
Or help catch
show them what happened.
Like,
or say,
Roblox, we caught 25 adults this week alone. We're going to keep...
Yeah.
This ain't the place.
We're putting the word out. This is not going to be tolerated here. And by the way, Chris, remember, it's the predators committing these crimes, not the platform.
They're using our platform.
And that would be the end of the story and their involvement in it. But the fact that they wouldn't do that, and what they said was, not on the record, but what they said on background was that it was because we interviewed Schlepp, who's this great character, smart young man who has caught predators on the platform, and because we interviewed some of the attorneys general who have filed lawsuits against Roblox. Well, of course we're going to interview them.
Right. So the reasons for doing it was because it's a court issue. Like I always.
Well, they said it was sensational and that it was a hit piece, and that's not what we do.
Okay, but regardless, it's not a hit piece saying that you're a MAGA or you're a womanizer.
Take part in it. If you're not arrogant or you're not afraid, you're going to take part in it.
Help because it's children.
And my last line to them was, we'll accommodate anytime you want to talk to us.
And I think
that's all you can do.
The scariest thing about when you come, because you're, like I said, it's like the Old West. A real journalist is hard to find these days. But we do our homework. Yeah, but I don't know every opinion. Even in all these situations, I know it. You never put your 2 cents on it. You never put you just tell the story. And I think that's why for 22 years, when you do the interview, I've never watched you be like, well, he's going to, he's going to get this. I have to make that decision for myself because I have to watch it. You present the facts.
Well, I don't know where the interview is going. If you decide where the interview is going before you do the interview, you're not going to extract the kind of information that you want to
You
extract.
let them.
I want to know
themselves.
I want to know what led them to do this, and very rarely do we see these guys just clam up and not want to talk, and it's because of the approach.
Right.
It's because I really am trying to understand, still to this day, why an adult would want to get with a child. Right? I don't get it. And I've had this conversation with a lot of smart people, and psychiatrists will try to explain it. And I understand the difference between a 20-year-old predator and a 30-year-old predator and a 50-year-old predator, and the difference between a stone-cold pedophile and somebody who wants to exploit a younger person to take advantage of them, or somebody who's, not as mature. I get all the stuff that goes into it. But at the end of the day, who wants to get with a child? Exactly. I can't tell you the answer to that question.
I have a hard time understanding why. Like, I'm 53.
Yeah.
A guy my age would date a 20-year-old. I'm just saying that there's such a difference in maturity.
Right.
What the hell do you even and again, I don't know, because I've been married for 15 years. But when I see, whenever they try to explain themselves, it's never about anybody else but them. And I equate a lot of things. I'm a big science and zoology nut, and I'm always looking. And I look at primates a lot, and especially chimps. There's a good documentary on Netflix about the Angulo tribe and the behaviors and all this kind of stuff. And it always seems to be the same kind of thing. The males that act out, and we're seeing a uptick in women doing it now more than probably ever.
I mean,
that
we have a file this thick with cases. And we'll get to it. We want to do some sort of a documentary or long form investigative project.
Is it just social structure? Is it that power that I'm not powerful among my peers, or is it the behaviors?
Well, I think there's no single point failure.
Yeah,
right.
But it's just it seems to be a lot of different.
If you want, they're not all the same guy.
No, they're all different.
And now the women are more easy to categorize because what you see there, the teachers, and what the shrinks will tell you is that. The reason we don't see female predators in our scenario is because the female predator doesn't like the anonymity. They like to know their target, right? Okay. And so a teacher would know the student. Okay. So that's what you see. They know that. They want that intimacy, where the male predator gets off on the fact that there's this anonymity, right? This surprise. What am I going to find when I get there? And part of me has a little more sympathy for a 20-year-old who's trying to meet a 14 or 15-year-old.
Right,
and maybe they're socially inept. But is it different or is it not? And I can't reconcile this because, to me, there's no difference in the level of danger presented by a 20-year-old versus a 40-year-old. It's the same damaging effect on a child's psyche. And every time I think that I've confronted somebody who's younger, like a 20-year-old, and I think to myself, maybe I was too hard on him. Maybe I should be more understanding. And they take him away and they go to search his backpack. And what do they find in the backpack? A loaded gun. So what's going to happen when this guy who talks in the chat about wanting to make a porn video with this girl, 14 or 15-year-old girl, what's going to happen when it doesn't go his way?
Or he doesn't want to
What's he going to do with the gun?
He's going to kill her.
Right. So why is that 20-year-old with a gun in his backpack any less dangerous than a 30 or 40 or 50-year-old?
You know what? And I'm sitting right here.
So he makes the movie.
You automatically...
he makes the movie.
Yeah, he makes the movie and then puts a gun to her head. That's the best case scenario.
Right.
You tell anybody you're dead. Or I can't have any witnesses. Because you don't... It's not
you don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know what happens.
Right.
But we know what shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Is he shouldn't even be in there in the first place. So, again, I think you're right. And... Before, I guess sometimes you look at it, I think a lot of times we try to put ourselves in the position.
Absolutely. You can't because you would never act that way.
That's not right. You wouldn't act out that way. And I think that's the I guess the human side of us is sometimes when you see somebody younger, you want to think.
Well, you try to apply some intellectual integrity or logic to it when there isn't any.
There is none.
So you create deterrence.
And then, I have to, just to switch gears for a second, because I was having an argument with my B team because the kids today, they don't research anything. And I said, it's funny because if I want to know what's going on with children and real news, there's you, but then there's the NFL, then there's the network.
Yeah.
And then that is your brother, correct? Who does the Red Zone?
No.
Okay, because he even tries to sound like you. Have you not noticed this? Because I'm like, wait a minute, this guy.
No, he spells it. It's
spelled different.
It's
okay.
Hanson. I've never met him. He seems like a wonderful guy.
But
you're not the only guy who thinks
there
that.
There might be some trademark infringement.
There's not a dissimilar presentation. I think he's a very talented guy. He does a great job. I subscribe to the Red Zone, obviously.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. But the only other relative of mine who's on television is Connor Hansen, my son, who's a correspondent for Fox Business and Fox News in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Started right here at News Edge, yeah.
So that's okay. So that is dispelled because I thought, I can be honest with you.
Everybody
he
does.
Looks like a younger you.
I understand. He could be. He could be a brother, cousin. Yeah, absolutely.
And he has the same kind of
cadence.
The cadence. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is.
I should reach out to him. We should do a bit together.
You 1,000%. You should tell him to have a seat.
Yeah,
that's still the greatest catchphrase of all. Have a seat.
And that started just spontaneously by trying to gain some control over the room.
And it did change the behavior because I think have a seat also let them know we're going to talk.
Right.
I think because the other thing is he's not going to kill him.
But I didn't think about that going into it. It just happened spontaneously because we happened to have a stool there where the cameras lined up,
But it immediately diffused what could be an aggressive situation.
We had a guy in Ohio years ago who was a little person, dwarf. And he showed up to meet a child. Ended up having a horrible criminal history. He was a bad guy. Yeah. In fact, the day after he showed up in the sting, he was due to be sentenced for inappropriate sexual behavior with a young relative, right? So this guy shows up, and he's standing at the bar. And I said, I'm going to need you to get on the stool. He goes, no, I'm good right here. And I said, no, I'm going to need you because if he stayed there, he wasn't in the shot because he was a little person. So I said, fine. So he hops up there, and we did the interview. But had he not been in the chair, he would have been out of the shot.
Again, not funny, but funny.
Well, it was humorous at the time.
Yeah. Speaking of not funny, but funny, I have my Gen Zers. I'm trying to do a little Gen X with them. And when we found out that you were willing to come on the show, they were like, can we ask him a couple questions?
Sure, they can.
So Ryan and Harry, they're the B team.
Yeah, I met them.
Ryan has dreams of interviewing and things like that, but I'm just going to warn you.
Yeah.
His questions.
Colorful.
He hasn't quite learned the art, so bear with us. But thank you again. I've been watching you faithfully.
Well, I appreciate that, Tyrus, and I'm a big fan of yours. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from you. But just real quick, for people who haven't, if you've been under a rock, if you haven't checked it out, the True Blue streaming network. He hosts Takedown with Chris Hansen and True Crime Nation. True Blue describes takedowns and the continuation of his decades-long efforts to expose online predators. And I don't know if you hear this enough, but as a parent, thank you for.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's really the most important thing.
And there's a lot of us who look at things differently with the stark reality that you present to us to understand.
Folks should check out this Roblox documentary. It's called Dangerous Games. It's on True Blue, my streaming crime network. Watch trueblue.com, TRUBLU.
And if we could run the trailer on this podcast, that would be wonderful.
I'll get it for you.
That would be great.
Yeah, no, I have it. I can
thank you.
Get it to you right away.
I will catch it.
It's very compelling, yeah.
Yeah, and as a guy, like I said, as a father who used to play Roblox with his kids on there, I had all four of my kids. We were all playing on there, and then next thing I know, I was deleted off everything, and the app keep wanting to pop up, and all of a sudden, 4 different other versions of the game would pop up on their stuff. So it's even as a parent, when you think, oh, I got rid of it all, you have to stay on it. You'll see in the documentary,
one of the victims in our case was a 10-year-old girl who was on Roblox without her parent, who homeschooled this child, even knowing. That's how clever kids are about this stuff.
Because whenever you say don't, or it's forbidden,
they want to check it out. And the predator in this case was actually in the UK. It's ubiquitous.
Yeah. Oh, but Roblox makes, so if you look at how much money they make,
billions and billions.
And they know if a guy is coming from the same IP address, gets 10 accounts. I mean, and some of these guys had up to 100. They were just, because they have nothing else to do. They don't have to. They don't have to stroll malls anymore or hang out at schools. They can, and then they can have buddies.
Well, and then they get the kids to do things and capture it on video, and then they can turn around and traffic that video or trade it for other videos.
And trade. Yeah, it's a whole underground, disgusting world. And thank you for shedding light on it.
Well, I appreciate it.
And thank you, sir.
We'll continue.
Yes, we will. And please come back. I'd like to
it's easy.
After the documentary stuff, I'd like to bring you back and talk about some more. And
I'll get you the trailer too.
On the women. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right,
I'll do it right now.
Best of luck.
Have a seat. Are you Big Daddy 43?
That's what it says in the transcript.
That's what it says in the transcript. Chris, Ryan, nice to meet you.
Ryan, nice to see you.
I gotta say, I am a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
My fiance and I have probably watched every episode of Takedown. I think you're on season 18, 19 now. We watch it every night.
200 episodes we have now.
Yeah, so I've watched about 200 episodes of the same show, and I just can't get enough of it. So, I've loved all those moments from even, Jeff Sokol when you used to have the original, the pizza guy, the Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan. So I have a couple questions for you. Despite what Tyrus said, I think I'm a phenomenal interviewer. So the first question is, so you've been doing this for almost 20 years, I'd say, right?
Sure, 22.
Your clips are everywhere. It takes one clip to go viral. You've got 20 seasons of a show. How do guys keep doing the same crime with how social media and everything is just blown up? How do guys keep doing this?
Well, it's shocking. I mean, again, I thought we'd do this for 2 or 3 investigations and who would show up. But now we're getting guys who in the chat will say, is this a Chris Hansen investigation? Is this a Sheriff so-and-so investigation? Sheriff Grady Judd? Or, I read about this and I know they work together. And, a guy down in Louisiana sent the decoy posing as the girl an article from the sting we had done in the same jurisdiction, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, said, that Sheriff Jason Ard works with Chris Hansen. And he still showed up.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then I love, when you show up, you have your funny line, which, by the way, I don't know if these are just all on the top of your head. It is hilarious, some of the things that you say. Like, oh, you enjoying that popcorn? Or, oh, you get an extra piece of pizza for me. It's crazy the amount of guys that will sit there and say, oh, shit, you're Chris Hansen. You're like, I am Chris Hansen. And they still show up. They know you.
Right.
And they'll still show up.
Well, that shows the drive that some of these guys have.
It's crazy. It's sick. What would you say out of your whole career? I mean, there's been so many. One of my personal favorites, I want to say this is a few seasons ago when you had the big house and the guy said, oh, he wasn't going to do anything because he shot his genitals off.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Well, that came at the end. That came at the end of the interview, too. So we're wrapping up and, the camera never stops rolling because you never know what's going to happen. But we're sort of kicked back, watching the police go through their part of it, or in this case, the Blount County Sheriff's Office. And Lieutenant Chad Long has talked to the guy and says this, and what's going to happen next, and he volunteers spontaneously that he couldn't have done anything.
Yeah,
and he said why, and so I start doing the interview again, and the lieutenant graciously lets me proceed, and he's doing the paperwork, and he tells me the story about how he was cleaning his 38, I think it was, and he shot himself in the penis. And I said, well,
so
are you okay? He goes, yeah, you want to see it? No, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. That's for the jail medical people to see.
I mean, that's probably a first for you for a man to willingly want to show you a picture of himself.
Yeah.
Not even a picture in person.
Yeah, that was the first.
That's crazy.
For sure, yeah.
So my final question for you, and you ask this at the end of almost every episode. What do you say to all the guys that are watching this podcast right now that are thinking about doing something stupid? I'm going to watch the Planet Tyrus podcast, and then tonight I'm going to meet up with a 14-year-old girl. What do you say to the morons out there, the sick people that are thinking about doing
Well,
that.
I'm hoping nobody able to commit that crime is watching this particular podcast. That's my overriding hope. But
That's
to anybody who may, and I don't think there are many out there watching this particular show, don't do it. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's a horrible thing to do. It's horrible to exploit a child.
It's awful, and I think you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
I hope you keep it going.
Yes, we will.
Because as great as it is to see you in action, it's also good that you're doing a good job and you're still taking these people that should be locked away for a long time. You're still going out there, working with those police departments, and you're doing a great job protecting the community.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to keep going.
Absolutely, keep it going. So I'm going to bring Harry in now. Harry,
Harry's got some questions too.
Yeah.
Harry.
Well, good luck with Harry, Chris.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan. Good luck, Harry.
See you, Ryan.
He's really intimidating.
Chris, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Harry.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. I'm a huge fan. Me and all my college buddies loved watching your show.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Providence College.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. But I just had a few questions
Sure.
for you.
Absolutely.
So, what is one common thread that you saw among every perpetrator where you were like, all right, like this is one thing that applies to all of them?
Well, they're self-absorbed and they are able to convince themselves that in this particular instance, it's okay for them to do it. They know it's wrong. They've convinced themselves that they can get away with it, and they've already come up with their story if they get caught. So if you're already thinking about what you're going to do if you get caught, you must be aware that you're doing something wrong. Because otherwise, if you got caught, you wouldn't have to come up with an excuse for it. So they have their excuses, and they're pretty easy to pick apart. Because I've got the transcripts. The crime is committed, in most cases, online before they even show up. The fact that they show up is, the icing on the cake.
So, like on that topic, what you and Tyrus kind of talked about, this new age of people making their own content, doing similar things that you were doing. Is that overall a positive or a negative for the issue?
Well, look, I think there's a place in our digital world for citizen journalists. There are a lot of crimes that are crowd-solved because of podcasts, and murders are solved because of podcasts and people's dogged obsession with a particular case. I think some bad people have been exposed and put away by quote-unquote vigilante predator catchers. I think some guys have not gone away because of their methods, and that concerns me. And we have a very strict protocol of how we do things, and that is why we have such a successful prosecution rate. And I don't see any change in our methodology. I think we are able to expose these guys, working with law enforcement, make sure that they face the consequences, and create awareness and a dialogue in the way I think it's appropriate to do so.
What was the craziest handle that you've seen for someone's name on a transcript?
There's so many. I'm trying to think of one that's appropriate for me to say without being wholly embarrassed. But I mean, it's a 100-way tie for first.
Right.
But as you can imagine, there's some very graphic. There's some perversely funny. It spans the imagination and the globe.
With Jeff Sokol,
Right.
when he offered you a piece of pizza, was there part of you that wanted to take the
No,
piece of
I didn't
pizza?
want any part of that pizza. Jeff Sokol was probably the definition of smarmy and unctuous. Just
Terrible.
Absolutely, universally the most hated predator I've caught. And he ended up being found guilty, pleaded guilty, did, I think, like 2 years. And later went to court to try to change his name because of his notoriety. And not only did the judge refuse the request to change his name, he refused the request to seal the transcripts of the court hearing because he wanted people to know that this guy tried to change his name. I mean, this guy went far and above what we see in predators. And he was just so wormy and weaselly when he came in, and he went in for the hug, and he was so aggressive about grooming this child. And he was so excited when he saw, the on-site decoy. I mean, it was really alarming. The whole I mean, every one of these guys is alarming, frightening, dangerous, and criminal, right? They're predators for a reason. But that one really sticks out.
And yeah, that what you're talking about earlier with the common traits that you see, he definitely had that. I have a transcript.
Sure.
And I would be honored if you could read it.
Absolutely.
I don't know where this came from. This was sent in just because people heard that you were coming on.
So, Harry, I'm going to read something here. Hey, just so you know, you're talking to someone who is clearly the best part of the B team. And it goes on. Not only that, you're a great interviewer, one of the strongest voices on the show.
Thank you.
And then this line caught my attention. Also, let's be honest here. You might actually be the best looking one in the room.
Oh, you don't have to say that.
So help me to understand this. You walk in here, confident, clearly carrying the B team, getting all this attention, and you thought nobody was going to notice?
Thank you, Chris. That's this episode of Planet Tyrus.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Appreciate it.